I gotta make you happy. I think that part most of us can agree on. Right? Now, there was a great rabbi by the name of the Stipler, and he said, when you want to look for a mate, when you want to check out if this will be a good wife or not a good wife, if this will be a good husband or not a good husband, so he says, when you're looking into the boy, you want to make sure he has good character traits. He said, but when you're looking into the lady, he said, when you're looking into a girl, then it's a totally different look. You're looking for something in Hebrew. It's actually called merutza. That is what you're looking for. Merutza means she's satisfied. She's a happy, easily satisfied person. Whatever she has, she's okay with it. She's not always complaining, but the girl that's always complaining can never be happy, right? So the man's goal is to make his wife happy. So if a person naturally, or it could be trained, I guess, or it could be taught that they can be happy with less or more, but they could be happy, so that person, it'll be a great marriage, because the husband wants to make the wife happy, and the wife is happy with whatever her husband, gives her. But a lady that's never happy, the husband can't satisfy her. There's nothing he could do. Right? And that's the problem that the Korach is going to have with his wife. She keeps complaining about what Moses did, and he needs to become more important. He's trying to please his wife. Okay, I'll go fight with Moses. Right? Okay, I'll try to become a leader. He has no way. He will never satisfy his wife. So she will destroy him, which is exactly what happens to Korach, that he cannot make his wife happy, and therefore she destroys him. Which is, we always mention this, I know it's getting late, on this show at least, but there was another woman here. In the original verse, it says who's leading the charge against Moses, with Korach and Dasan Aviram. There's actually a fourth person. His name is On Ben Peles. What's interesting is that even though On Ben Peles was part of the original group, but his name disappears. We don't hear from him. What happened? Obviously, On Ben Peles' wife was not the jealous type. She wants to help her husband. She's satisfied with her husband, with what he does, and she doesn't need that he should become great. And so since she doesn't have the need to see that her husband is great, so she can advise him properly. And she says, this fight, you got to get your head out of this fight. No matter what, you lose. If Aaron wins, you lose. If Korach wins, you still lose. Why are you in this fight? So I always say this, like all good husbands. He says, what am I going to do? I told the boys I'd show up. She says, leave it to me. So she puts her husband to sleep. She goes outside. She does things that would be considered immodest. So this group of Korach, when they're officially very, very spiritual, holy people, they see this lady standing in front of her tent immodestly. They can't walk down the street. They can't go get On. On misses the show. And since On doesn't show up, he lives. And that's amazing. And we have a lot to talk about still about what's going on this week's Torah portion, but we'll have to wait to the next show. The music is playing. I hope you enjoyed it. Short and sweet. Thank you, of course, to all 100 of listeners. I can't do it without you. Thank you on the production team. We have Alan in the back. I have left you said food. Until next time, I am Rabbi Tzvi Jacobson. You've been listening to Let's Talk Torah on NRM Streamcast. Until next time, don't forget to think about it.
There's a house we can build. Every room inside is filled with things from far away. Special things I compile, each one there to make you smile on a rain.
You may ask, how did this tradition get started? I'll tell you. I don't know. But it's a tradition. And because of our traditions, every one of us knows who he is and what God expects him to do.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Let's Talk Torah. I am Rabbi Tzvi Jacobson with NRM Streamcast, and we'll spend our time talking Torah, learning stuff, and having fun while we learn. You can always send your questions in the comments to our mailbag at letstalktorah@gmail.com, and I will, of course, answer as many as I can. Or you can go to our webpage at letstalktorah.net, and you can put your questions down over there. And you could send them in, or you could have a request to join the show like we did last week. Or you could just say nice comments. We always like nice things. It reminds me, I just read this somewhere. It's the end of the school year. We just finished school yesterday, and some parents, it's not all, other parents do it other parts during the year, maybe on Hanukkah, maybe on Purim. But some parents wait to the end of the year and they write very beautiful letters, notes, letters, just of appreciation, of thank you, which is, as a teacher, I hate to say you win some, you lose some. You can't always even tell, how you've connected. There are just some children that have different difficulties, emotional, behavioral, scholastic. You don't know what effect you made on these children. You just don't know. But a nice note goes a long way. You put in a lot of effort. You try different things. You put, at nights you would think, what can I do to help this child? But you don't really know. And the truth is, sometimes you almost never know. It could be years later. All you know is you were involved. One of my children graduated in 8th grade. So it's nice when someone gets up and mentions that, it's not just the last teacher this child had. It's all the teachers created this child. Now, we didn't make robots. We're not a factory. But we all put in to these children what we want, hope, feel. But we don't know. We don't know how it affects. We don't know. I tell the children at the beginning of the school year, a very famous story with Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva was 40 years old. His wife sends him to go learn. He was an ignoramus. She sends him to yeshiva. He can't handle it. It's not working. So on his way home, he passes by, some river. And he must have seen a little waterfalls or something. And he sees like a big bowl almost, like a hole formed by the water, dripping or running into this stone. So, who made this hole? Like, what happened? Obviously. Right? It's the water, dripping, running on the stone. But hello, water is soft. Stone is hard. How does that work? Must be that even the soft water eventually has an effect on the stone. And we take it a step further. Which drop started to create the hole? Now, I'm not scientific, but if the first drop did absolutely zero on an atomic level, then why is the second drop better than the first drop? Has to be that every single drop has an effect. So Rabbi Akiva says, water is soft, the stone is hard, and it still could penetrate. Torah, which is hard. My heart is soft. Of course the Torah penetrates. I haven't seen it yet. And he turned around and went back to study, and of course, as they say, the rest is history, and 24,000 students later, the great Rabbi Akiva. So in any case, we're talking in the last show, we started talking about the story of Korach. A lot of stuff about Korach. The last show, we were really just busy focusing on the person. We didn't finish focusing, but we spent a lot of time talking about Korach and his henchmen and what the fights were about. And now let's move into the actual story. So Korach and his band, they show up to fight with Moses. And Moses is nervous. And Moses actually acts very different. I mean, this is a rebellion. And you got to think about it. Korach says, Moses, you picked your brother on your own. Why did you pick your brother to be the high priest? If God was telling you who to pick, I'm next in line. Because Korach is a cousin, and so your father's family gets first dibs, great. So you're the leader. So the next one in line has to be me. Or at least the third person in line has to be me. And you still skipped over me. Moses, you're making up stuff on your own. This problem, which we're going to spend some time on, I hope, is disastrous. Because this line says you don't trust that Moses is reporting from God. Right? You don't believe it. Because if you believed Moses is a messenger of God, then Moses can't make up anything. Because if Moses could make up something, maybe he made up keeping kosher. Maybe he made up you can't wear linen or wool garments. Maybe he made up you have to give a percentage of your grain to the priest and to the Levite. In other words, where do you stop? Maybe he made up this death penalty. If you could believe that Moses is not the perfect messenger and he says only what God told him to say, if you believe that Moses could make up anything he wanted and choose Aaron, for argument's sake, then you don't believe anything that Moses says. You have just wiped out the whole Torah. That kind of rebellion is way worse. Bowing down to a gold calf, going into Israel and saying, oh, it's too strong for us to conquer. Those are bad, right? You sinned, right? You did something wrong. But this undermines everything. And Moses knows it. And that's why Moses has a total different attitude with this battle with Korach. So it's interesting. There was a person, a righteous person, but he was very, very strong. I don't mean physically. And if he saw somebody doing something wrong, he let him know. He did not. He didn't ignore it, brush it under the carpet. He was strong. He gave a real rebuke. But the people knew that he had their best interest in mind. Anyways, one day a young man comes into him, and he reprimanded this young man for a certain fault. When he finished talking, he saw the young man, and he saw that this young guy was not really paying attention to him. So he says, young man, I ask your forgiveness. I apologize for everything I said. Oh, you don't have to apologize, right? I know what you're saying is only for my good. So this tzaddik said that, I wish I didn't have to apologize. But I need to tell you like this. If I'm rebuking someone, my sole, goal, the only thing I'm looking to accomplish is to help you. So I expect that my words will have an effect. My words had no effect on you. That I saw. It was easy to tell that every word I said had zero effect. If what I say doesn't affect you, I have no right to rebuke you. So I ask your forgiveness. And that seems to be what's happening in this week's Torah portion. All the other times, Moses is going to, do battle Tell the Jewish people they're making a mistake. Have it out with them. But not here. He tries a little bit. He's going to go first to meet with Dustin Aviram. And they come out and they send a message, we are not coming to you, we are not talking to you, we want nothing to do with you. He even goes to Korach's house, tent. And Korach's children are sitting there, and they are special people. They don't say a word because they can't talk against their father. It's their father. They can't talk against Moses. He's Moses. They don't say a word. They actually are saved. They're the only ones from this whole group that actually are saved. So once Moses tries with Dasan Aviram, he tries with Korach, and he sees that he's not getting anywhere, it's over. He's done. So Moses says, tomorrow morning, there were 250 people that were fighting, plus Korach, plus Dasan Aviram. Says everyone is going to bring the Ketores spices tomorrow. Everybody have their own fire pan. You're going to put the Ketores spices on it. It seems to be a little debatable if Moses wanted them to put a fire or if God would send down the fire. It seems the 250 so much wanted to do this Ketores, they brought the fire themselves. Okay, we're going to get to that. The Ketores was something that it is the sacrifice that the high priest, the Kohen Gadol, brings on the holiest day of the year on Yom Kippur into the Holy of Holies. It's a very special, powerful sacrifice. So Moses is saying, you want to be the high priest? I'm telling you, God already picked the high priest. You think you're better? No problem. You 250 bring, and then God will choose. But I'm just warning you, God already chose. Right? God already chose. So you better be careful what you're asking for. That whole night, Korach is, in Yiddish we say, reitzing on. He's getting the whole Jewish people all excited. And Moses, let me tell you a story what he did. There was a widow and she had a farm and she would grow some produce and as she was harvesting and a few stalks fell and she wanted to pick it up and Moses there, no, you can't pick up the extra stalks that fall. You have to leave for the poor. And okay, and then she bundles them, and as she's bundling, she forgets a bundle behind her, and again Moses says, no, you can't touch it, you have to leave it to the poor. And then she gets to the end of her field, and Moses comes out, the corner of the field, you have to leave for the poor. He says, this is not working. So she sells the field, she buys some sheep, she'll have wool, she'll have milk, and she shears off the first wool. Moses, and Aaron shows up and says, oh, the first wool. I even skipped part of it, I'm sorry. She has all her grain. And then Aaron says, oh, you got to give me 2%. And the Levite comes and says, you got to give me 10%. And so therefore she feels she's not ending up with anything. So then she sells the field, buys the sheep. I'm sorry for ruining the story that way. And she shears the wool. And again, the Kohen comes and says, the wool, the first wool comes to me. And she decides, okay, at least let my kids eat. And she slaughters. And again, the Kohen comes and says, oh, I get the cheek and the leg and the part of the chest. So everything she feels going to the Kohen. And she says, that's it. I'm just all donating it to she called it Cherem. Just donating it. And Aaron comes, oh, I'm the one that takes the donations. So Korach's making fun the whole night. He's showing the Jewish people, this Moses, he makes up stuff. How could he make up all these things, take away the money from this poor lady? Right? Politicians, by the way, are very good at that, of taking a story and embellishing the parts they want. And then he asked some other famous questions. He had a lot of good ideas to start up with Moses, and the Jewish people were confused. They're confused. This Korach is a brilliant person. And they just weren't sure. That's why when they all show up the next morning, they don't know whose side they're on. Which was enough that God tells Moses, I got to destroy everybody. If everyone could have this question, Moses, if you are my messenger, then we blew it on this. We're going to have to start again. So Moses says, come on, one man sins and everybody's going to be punished. As Moses not trying to protect Korach, which is fascinating. The Jewish people have to be protected. It's true they're confused, But it's all coming from this one man. They don't even realize what they're doing. Korach knows good and well what he's doing. He has to be punished. And Moses says in his prayer to God, they're all there, the 250, with they're burning their ketores, and Moses says, if Korach and his followers die a natural death, everything Korach said is true. I made up everything, made up my own ideas, is not true. But if God creates something that's never been seen before, ever in history, a new death, then you'll know. Then you'll know that I don't make stuff up. As soon as Moses finishes that, there's a sound. The earth, it says, opens up its mouth. There's a mouth. And so the 250 get burnt. They get burnt to a crisp. Korach, Dasan Aviram, their children, anything they own, it gets pulled into the funnel of this mouth. It says even if they lent stuff to somebody else. I mean, it didn't affect anybody else, but it's going to affect Korach and his family and Dasan Aviram and their family. Everyone's getting swallowed up. This was something never ever seen or never again. That's not Moses knew an earthquake was coming, because first of all, the earthquake, is not so good at, picking this vessel from here and this needle from here and this person from here and this person from here. Just, if it opens up, it swallows everything. This was only Korach, all his belongings, Dasan and their families. I keep saying Korach and his stuff, and Dasan Aviram and their families, because Korach's 3 children survive. It says like God made a ledge, and those 3 children are standing on the ledge. And I think I heard this morning on Rosh Hashanah, before they blow the shofar. We actually say a psalm. We repeat it 7 times. And that psalm was written by the children of Korach. It's called Lamatzeach Livnei Korach Mizmar. A psalm to the children of Korach. Not all psalm was written by King David, in case you didn't know that. Why do we say it on Rosh Hashanah before we blow shofar? Because the Bnei Korach know better than anybody else. You could be being pulled in by this mouth. It's going to swallow you and put you straight in Gehenna, straight in hell, straight in. And you could still repent. Last second, little ledge comes out. God says, I'll protect you. That's like a great, fascinating, important lesson when we think about Rosh Hashanah. Even the last second, it is never, ever too late to repent. Until the person is dead, then he's not alive. Then, of course, it's too late. Anyways, so we've really answered this question. Why did Moses feel it necessary? Why did Moses feel it necessary to have a brand new, never before seen creation? Because that's what we're discussing till now. The fight of Korach against Moses was a fight to undermine everything that God was trying to accomplish. The Torah and Moses. He's undermining, he's destroying everything with their mouth. Right? How did Korach fight? He didn't fight with weapons. All of Korach's fighting was with his mouth. So a mouth has to come and swallow him up. Afterwards, so now we have all these fire pans that are just hanging out on the ground. And it's interesting that these fire pans seem to get a certain holiness. These fire pans all get a certain holiness. How do we know? They really shouldn't have any holiness, right? Now, these were people rebelling against Moses. These are people rebelling against Moses, rebelling against God. Like, what holiness? So, but we know, the Torah says, that Moses tells Aaron's son, Elazar, collect the fire pans, throw off the fire, collect the fire pans, and you're going to create a cover for the altar. These guys rebelled against God, and he's taking their fire pans and using it as a cover in the altar. Like, what gives? What is going on over here? So he says, very interesting. These 250 people wanted, we've talked about this a lot in the past, wanted spirituality. They wanted to become holier. They had such a desire to bring the Ketores because they thought that it would bring them closer to God. They were misguided because the way they were trying to do it, they were rebelling. So the action in itself, if you can see the action without the picture, the action was beautiful. Their thought process destroyed it. Therefore, since the thought process was no good, these fire pans have to be reconstituted. They cannot be used as they were because the thought that went into them was terrible. But the fire pans themselves, the actual fire pans, the action was showing you on spirituality. Okay, so we're going to take these fire pans, we're going to turn them into a cover for the altar, and by the way, it's also going to be a reminder for everybody what happened when you start up with Aaron, right? But it's going to be used. And then I saw another answer. And this really goes back to what we were talking about at the very beginning of the show. And that is that if you do an action, and not you, but it's a terrible action, but something good comes out of that action, you deserve a reward. Because what you did was terrible. I don't know. You embarrassed somebody, and because you embarrassed him, he left his job, and he started a new company, and they created a life-saving medicine. So you embarrassed the guy, right? So you did something terrible. But now something good came out of it. Do you get credit for that? So interesting enough, on a small degree, the answer to that is yeah. In other words, if you do something horrible, you're going to get terribly punished. So Korach is in hell, right? He gets swallowed up. Whenever we talk about him, he's a big, wicked person. He's bad. But because of what he did, that terrible action created this whole story. Now he got swallowed up, and we talk about how bad he is, and all these people got killed for starting up with Aaron. Now we know that Moses is the great leader of the Jewish people. He is the messenger from God. He only says word for word what God says. So we learn that because of Korach, now we come to this realization. That's why he deserved his grandson Samuel. Now we started talking about this at the beginning of the show. Korah believed if he could have such a special descendant, must be he himself was also great. That he was wrong. The reason why he merited to that special descendant was because he taught an amazing lesson to the Jewish people. Because of him, a tremendous lesson was taught, was understood, was recognized, that everything Moses says from God. For teaching everyone that special lesson, you deserve a reward. The reward is you're going to have a special descendant by the name of Samuel Shmuel Hanavi. But not because you're a good guy, right? In other words, it came because you did something rotten. That's a fascinating idea. So what happens next in the Torah portion? What happens next is the people again complain. Moses, you could have prayed for them. You didn't have to let them all get killed. And now a plague starts. Because remember, God said, he's listening to Moses to protect the Jewish people, and they're still complaining. That's it. Plague starts. Moses tells Aaron, take the spices, the ketores, and go protect them, because the ketores has the power to stop the angel of death. So he goes there, and sure enough, the angel of death is there. And he tells the angel of death, he says that, he tells the angel of death, you got to stop. The angel of death says, God told me to make this plague. Who told you? Moses? God told me, Moses told you. Who do we listen? So Aaron says, Moses doesn't do anything without God's permission. Let's go back to having a conversation by the tabernacle. Let's have a conversation. So the Ketores, which is causing all these issues, then went and saved whoever else was going to die during this plague. But at this point, God says not enough. God says we need one more proof to show the Jewish people that I chose Aaron. He is the high priest. We need one more proof. So they take Aaron's staff, and they take the staff, one from each tribe. And they take all of them, and Moses puts it in the Holy of Holies. And the next morning, Moses goes in, takes them out, and all the sticks are the same dead sticks. But Aaron's stick has blossoms and buds and almonds because God is saying, I picked Aaron. We're going to do something to show everyone that I want Aaron and no one else. I would talk about it more, but the music is playing, and I hope you enjoyed it, short and sweet. Thank you, of course, to all my wonderful sponsor listeners. You know I can't do without you. Thank you to the production team. We have Alan in the back. And we have Lecture and Food for Thought. Until next time, I'm Rabbi Tzvi Jacobson. You've been listening to Let's Talk Torah on NRM Streamcast. Until next time, don't forget to think about it.
For the world we're gonna make. There's a house we can build. Every room inside is filled with things from far away. Special things I can